Spider-Man had become one of the most beloved and iconic superheroes of all time. After years of anticipation, he finally entered the Marvel Cinematic Universe, marking a new chapter in the franchise's expansion. Nearly a decade had passed since the universe was first introduced to audiences, and this integration allowed the character to join that world in the same way he had once been introduced in the comic books, as a youthful contrast to the more experienced heroes. Through this inclusion, the universe gained a fresh perspective, revealing the life of an ordinary teenager navigating school in a world populated by gods, soldiers, and billionaires. The story explored the challenges of someone growing up in the shadow of legendary figures, idolizing them, yet feeling the urge to contribute something greater. Marvel's storytelling has always been a complex interweaving of narratives, each film adding new layers to a vast cinematic tapestry. With Spider-Man joining, the threads became more connected, offering new stories and creating a sense that he truly belonged among the other heroes. The production team viewed this as both exciting and daunting, recognizing the responsibility of doing justice to such a significant figure while maintaining Marvel's commitment to story-driven filmmaking. Spider-Man's first appearance within the universe took place in Captain America: Civil War. The choice was deliberate. The film's central conflict required fresh heroes, and the arrival of the young web-slinger perfectly fit the theme of expanding the ranks. This introduction allowed audiences to meet Peter Parker through Tony Stark's guidance, placing him within a contemporary context as a hero still learning his place in the larger world. The relationship between Peter Parker and Tony Stark became emblematic of mentorship, one representing wisdom and experience, the other youth and potential. Their dynamic highlighted two sides of heroism within the Marvel world, one grounded in resources and certainty, the other in aspiration and discovery. Behind the scenes, the creative team viewed Spider-Man's character as one defined by contrast. He was set against a backdrop of heroes who possessed everything, while he began with almost nothing. This perspective enabled a more humanized, emotionally grounded portrayal, emphasizing humility, curiosity, and growth. For the actor chosen to play the role, the experience carried deep personal meaning. Having admired the character since childhood, he viewed the opportunity as the realization of a lifelong dream. His enthusiasm and youthful energy offered a different tone from his predecessors, redefining the role to reflect better the adolescent spirit that originally defined Spider-Man in the comics. Marvel Studios had dreamed of creating a Spider-Man film since its inception, but the character's cinematic rights had long belonged to Sony. Many within the studio assumed the crossover would never occur. However, a collaborative spirit between Sony and Marvel, driven by figures like Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige, made the unprecedented partnership possible. Their cooperation demonstrated how two major studios could share creative ownership to tell a story beloved by millions. The unification of these worlds became a landmark in modern filmmaking, an alliance that balanced corporate interest with artistic vision. Both studios embraced the opportunity to expand the universe, enrich storytelling possibilities, and deliver something that fans across generations had been waiting for. Spider-Man's arrival revitalized the sense of wonder within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His youthful perspective contrasted with the established heroes, his ambition embodying the idea that greatness could emerge from ordinary origins. For those who brought him to life, it was not merely another film, but a celebration of creativity, collaboration, and the continuation of a cultural legend. An incoming call marked the beginning of a new connection between Tony Stark and a young man named Peter Parker, a boy destined to become Spider-Man. Their brief exchange introduced Peter as both awkward and confident, a teenager proudly balancing humility and heroism. Kevin Feige reflected on the opportunity to reintroduce Spider-Man through the events of Civil War, recognizing how the character, initially created by Steve Ditko and Stan Lee in the 1960s, had always stood apart from other Marvel heroes. Unlike industrialists or gods, Spider-Man was a relatable high school student from New York, struggling with the same insecurities and emotions shared by his readers. Producers described Peter's youth as central to his challenges. His immaturity contrasted sharply with veterans like Iron Man or Thor, making his journey both intimate and universal. Viewers also connected with Peter's frustration at being treated like a child, despite his extraordinary abilities. Casting the right actor to embody this complexity became a formidable challenge. Sarah Finn's casting team reviewed over 7,000 audition tapes and interviewed hundreds of young actors. Among them, Tom Holland distinguished himself with an energy that felt natural and genuine, a mix of innocence, humor, and fearless self-assurance. Holland's screen tests impressed not only the producers, but also Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, even though standing before such icons could have easily overwhelmed him. His authenticity during those moments earned him the part. Once chosen, he dove into rehearsals, joining scenes that established his on-screen rapport with seasoned performers from the Marvel ensemble. Directors and producers admired the contrast Holland brought to the role, physically lean yet powerful, humble yet bold. His ability to channel both vulnerability and confidence mirrored Peter Parker's essence. Observers noted his charm, his determination, and a certain youthful sincerity that made him instantly believable. Beyond talent, Holland's dance background gave him exceptional agility and control. His movements carried storytelling depth, which became vital for a hero often hidden behind a mask. He performed many of his stunts himself, conveying emotion through motion when facial expression was impossible. Directors worked closely with him to refine signature Spider-Man poses and ensure physical authenticity. Filming progressed smoothly as the cast forged strong friendships. Holland's collaboration with his co-stars, especially his closest on-screen allies, was marked by humor, discipline, and trust. His enthusiasm energized the set, and his playful confidence became contagious among the crew. Colleagues spoke admiringly of Holland's professionalism and the way he treated acting as a serious craft. His understanding of character and attention to detail elevated the film's quality. Even during the most physically demanding scenes, he maintained commitment to emotional realism. By the end, those around him agreed that Tom Holland embodied Peter Parker both on and off the screen. He captured the spirit of an ordinary boy with extraordinary responsibility, bridging the gap between myth and humanity. As one observer fittingly remarked, if a real Spider-Man existed, Tom Holland would be the one to wear the mask. The crew admired Tom's arrival on set, noting that his presence suited the role perfectly. When Tom first appeared, his embodiment of the character attracted immediate attention, especially during his screen test, where he performed acrobatic flips. Observers quickly concluded that he was, in every way, Spider-Man. Tom's comfort in the role was clear, evident in both his demeanor and his physical abilities. Those in charge of casting revealed that Tom's dance and gymnastics backgrounds enabled him to perform remarkable stunts on his own. These skills proved essential, as Tom was required to demonstrate athleticism daily, especially for physically demanding scenes, such as those set on the Washington Monument. While filming couldn't take place at the actual monument, a large replica was built, and the experienced stunt coordinator, George Cottle, developed sequences tailored to Tom's impressive abilities. Stunt rehearsals were extensive. During these sessions, Tom was attached to rigs on specially designed walls, allowing for convincing action without camera trickery. This method enabled immediate feedback, allowing Tom to adjust his positioning for optimal results. The filmmakers strove to ensure that each stunt was performed not merely for spectacle, but also to capture the character's emotional tone. Tom's collaboration with the stunt team was creative and hands-on. He often offered ideas on how Spider-Man should move, suggesting changes to make scenes more dynamic. For sequences unfeasible for a human actor, a combination of practical stunts, digital visual effects, and motion capture technology brought Spider-Man's movements to life. Actors wore sensor-tracked suits to relay their real-time actions directly to cameras, so viewers ultimately saw the character's digital avatar perform movements based on the actor's own. Production discussions focused on finding the right balance between practical stunts performed by Tom and moments that required digital enhancement. Tom expressed occasional nervousness, but George Cottle ensured safety and confidence during every stunt. The team emphasized that Tom could handle most of Spider-Man's acrobatics, prompting efforts to maximize his live-action screen time. Scenes requiring greater risk or elaborate choreography were recreated with digital effects after additional motion capture sessions, as Tom's movements were considered so effective and authentic that even animators preferred them to computer-generated substitutes. The production's narrative thus repeatedly centered on Tom's unique contribution, his athleticism, commitment, and suitability for the demanding role. In conclusion, the production relied heavily on Tom across all phases: motion capture, voice work, and physical performances. The result was a portrayal shaped by his raw presence and talent, leaving the cast, crew, and viewers deeply impressed with his embodiment of Spider-Man. The discussion revolved around the enigmatic figure known for his wings, a psychopathic man dressed like a demon whose nature remained largely unknown. Those involved cautioned against meddling with forces beyond comprehension. Decades earlier, the Vulture had been conceptualized as one of Spider-Man's earliest adversaries, a peculiar creation imagined as a frail, older man endowed with the extraordinary ability to fly and the strength to fulfill his mission. His thin frame, pale hair, and green leotard gave him a strangely unsettling appearance unmatched among comic villains of that era. When the character was adapted for a live-action film in 2017, the creative team faced a challenge. The original concept seemed unlikely to translate effectively to the screen, prompting them to rethink the Vulture's essence. They aimed to make him more frightening and grounded, redesigning the wing suit with purpose rather than spectacle. The development process began by asking practical questions: why such a flight suit would exist, what technology could power it, and how it would function at high altitudes. Would its pilot require a helmet or oxygen support? Was it military grade or an improvised construction built from scavenged materials? The reasoning became an exercise in logic, shaping both the character's appearance and his motivation. The design evolved into something far more substantial than a simple wearable device. The Vulture's armor resembled an aircraft and intricate machine constructed from salvaged alien technology stolen after battles involving the Avengers. Every detail of the suit, from its mechanical precision to its intricate bolts and panels, reflected a remarkable artistry that impressed everyone on set. Its immense wingspan and bladed structure gave the character a terrifying presence. Each movement made him appear like a weaponized bird of prey. The concept was further elevated by the decision to pit this airborne predator against Spider-Man, thereby emphasizing a thrilling symmetry between hero and villain. Michael Keaton's casting as the Vulture transformed the role entirely. From the start, the filmmakers had envisioned him in the part, recognizing his ability to infuse depth into complex characters. After initial scheduling conflicts, fate intervened, and Keaton joined the project to the team's overwhelming excitement. His reputation for immersive, naturalistic performances carried into this role, bridging multiple cinematic universes and redefining what a comic book antagonist could represent. Keaton's performance brought an unpredictable intensity to the character. His meticulous attention to detail and controlled menace inspired awe among both cast and crew. Scenes shared with him were charged with genuine tension. His presence was so intimidating that co-stars felt genuine fear, requiring little effort to act terrified. This authenticity lent the film a realism and gravity rarely achieved in superhero storytelling. The filmmakers were determined to craft a villain with lasting significance, not merely a temporary adversary. They sought to weave his backstory and motivations into the broader Spider-Man universe, ensuring his role resonated beyond a single film. As production concluded, the interconnectedness of the story, with its blend of old and new characters, became clear. The experience was described as astonishing, the process both exhausting and exhilarating. When filming wrapped on Michael Keaton's scenes, the crew expressed heartfelt appreciation, acknowledging that his portrayal had solidified the Vulture as one of Spider-Man's most memorable and human adversaries. The group began their project with excitement and curiosity, anticipating something remarkable ahead. As they moved forward, they experimented with scenes that made it seem as if one of them momentarily possessed superhuman abilities. Although such moments typically belonged at the start of a journey, they laughed at having forgotten to include them earlier. In the early stages of production, they were searching for a filmmaker to spearhead the creative vision, and John Watts unexpectedly emerged as the leading force. His approach was calm but intentional. He preferred that lines be delivered naturally and with emotional restraint. Everyone soon recognized that he was the secret ingredient driving the film's tone and rhythm. John's direction brought Spider-Man to new cinematic dimensions. He valued authenticity in performances, ensuring that every actor maintained their own voice while shaping characters that felt original and grounded. His work ethic earned him the nickname One Take Wonder, even though those perfect takes required several attempts. From the very beginning, John's philosophy was clear. He wanted the young cast to feel like actual teenagers rather than polished Hollywood versions. His own youthful energy and enthusiasm mirrored the same qualities that defined Peter Parker's joy in discovering his powers. John's next personal ambition was to create a coming-of-age high school story, which aligned perfectly with Marvel's concept for a youthful Spider-Man film. When producers Jeremy Latcham and Eric Carroll described their vision as a high school superhero story, John immediately connected to the premise. He understood adolescence deeply, recalling the restless thrill of waiting for school to end so that one could chase adventure, just as Spider-Man eagerly awaited opportunities to embrace his secret identity. He believed that for a 16-year-old, being Spider-Man would bring immense excitement, mixed with inevitable stress, but initially, the joy of it would overshadow the complications. The creative team shared the sentiment that Peter Parker's journey represented the threshold between boyhood and adulthood, a stage of rapid discovery and emotional growth. John's memory of his own teenage years, full of confusion and skewed perspectives, informed how he shaped Peter's world. On set, John cultivated an optimistic atmosphere. His enthusiasm was contagious among the crew and cast. He demanded honesty from every scene, insisting on realism, not only in representing New York, but also in portraying modern teenagers with sincerity. Collaboration guided his methods. He welcomed actors' suggestions and adapted scenes accordingly. The production flowed smoothly, as everyone shared a unified creative path. Many who worked alongside John felt a kinship in their inexperience and ambition. For some of them, it was their first major project, and they grew together through the process. As filming progressed, the actors reflected on how surreal it was to be part of a Marvel production, portraying one of cinema's most iconic heroes. The environment on set remained relaxed, spontaneous, and emotionally honest. John encouraged improvisation, often asking his actors how they would respond naturally in various situations. He allowed freedom of expression, helping the performances feel organic. His respect for the audience and the longevity of Spider-Man's legacy shaped every decision he made. The team's first primary creative choice was to avoid crafting yet another origin story. Instead, they wanted to explore deeper emotional dimensions without retelling the familiar narrative of how Peter got his powers. John aimed to balance action and spectacle with drama, grounding the film in relatable human conflicts. His idea to connect the story to a black market trade in leftover superhero technology brought a clever, fresh perspective. It framed the villains not merely as threats, but as ordinary people responding to a changing world. Through this lens, the story explores life in a society shaped by destructive alien invasions and the ordinary individuals trying to survive in their aftermath. John focused particularly on depicting one man as a hard-working tradesman forced to adapt to the new order, showing the intersection of morality, necessity, and ambition. The result was a version of Spider-Man that centered more on Peter Parker's personal growth than his powers. It was about how he struggled and matured while balancing responsibility, admiration, and self-doubt. Despite the massive scale of production, John constantly reminded everyone of the story's human essence. Beneath the complex visual effects and monumental logistics, his goal was simple: to tell a story about real people, their flaws, and their choices. Every moment on set served that purpose, to ensure that by the end, the audience would not only witness a superhero's adventures, but also feel the humanity behind the mask.